I gather around the table with my friends every Friday night. Dice clinking on the hardwood in the candlelight. I craft a world of magic, kingdoms and dark skies. But every time I roll the dice, it's always snake eyes. They charge into the dungeon with courage and with grit, but my hands are shaking nervously and I wanna quit. I bring out a dragon, but to no big surprise, when it's my turn to roll, I just get snake eyes. Snake eyes, snake eyes, the curse that I can't shake. Every plan, every move I make. Snake eyes, oh, it's my DM fate. Dreams of glory, but end up second rate. Oh, monster traps, dungeons and lies. Lord help me roll in snake eyes. The players start laughing, saying it's all part of the game, but I can't help but feel the burn of sting of shame. I spin a web of tales, gods in disguise, but every twist and turn I make meets those old snake eyes. Snake eyes, the curse that I can't shake. Every plan, every move I make. Snake eyes, oh, it's my DM fate. Dreams of glory, but end up second rate. Oh, monster traps, dungeons and lies. Lord help me roll in snake eyes. Snake eyes, the curse that I can't shake. Every plan, every move I make. Snake eyes, oh, it's my DM fate. Dreams of glory, but end up second rate. Oh, monster traps, dungeons and lies. Lord help me roll in snake eyes. Lord help me roll in snake eyes. I gather around the table with my friends every Friday night. Dice clinking on the hardwood in the candlelight. I craft a world of magic, kingdoms and dark skies.
Hello, you chat bastards. Let's see if I'm even being heard. Yes, all right, I can see the volume going through. Hello, welcome. Time for a little Legend Seeker, and did something literally just fall in my damn drink? There's no way. There's no way. Hold on. Oh crap, it's merged. I can't have nice things. Hello. What's going on, guys? I apparently am not allowed to have my coffee in the morning or something. I guess life is conspiring against me. Oh, nothing broke. No, I'm not mute. I'm not muted. I can see the volume. You guys cannot trick me. So hello out there on YouTube. Hello out there on Kick. Got both of you guys rolling. We're going to do a little Q&A today. So I hope some of you are here and you have brought your questions. In fact, you know, I didn't think to do this, but I probably server. Let's see. At everyone posting a little Legend Seeker Q&A. Ooh. Come say hello and bring questions. Lots of questions. And then I'll grab the link. To be clear, you aren't muted, but just need to be. Wow, Jensen, that is mean. That is cruel. I would say unusual, but it's really not unusual around these parts. All right, so let's grab the link. We're going to be talking about Legend Seeker. Lots of Legend Seeker today, and hopefully you guys got questions. That's the main purpose of this, to see what thoughts you guys have had. after watching all the Frost writtens and watching the Patreon and thinking about these D20 style systems and what you're wondering we're going to be doing with this particular game here. And I'm hoping to be able to answer those questions. As we've gotten further along, it's been easier and easier to answer those questions as more decisions have been solidified. And also, just more has been done. It's really big. I don't think I told you guys. Maybe I did tell you guys last time, but I'm projecting I'm going to get over 500 pages of text at this point. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff that's being written. And that's been happening over this whole course of this time. So, um, further we get, the more information I have and the more things I can answer. All right, let me grab. It's shareable link. I am so smart, guys. Look at this. Here we go. Ooh, should I add art? Maybe I'll add some. Add some because people like art. File. Yeah. Yep, I have mastered social media. All right, there we go. Maybe some. Oh. But let's see who's in chat for the time being. I see we've got a few of us out there. We got Chrysanth. Oh joy. Saying wee. We're gonna skip the weird emoji she did. And then we got Jensen, who rightfully is calling out Chrysanth for those emojis. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jensen, for that. And then we have, I think I saw Lynn out there. Hello, Lynn Green. You're here. You are here. I have definitely mastered. I could have asked you to do this when I was setting up Chrysanth, but I didn't. I'm really paranoid about this now because I saw something in my drink and it vanished. I don't want to drink it. How old is that picture in the thumbnail? Very recent, actually. I'm gonna say in the last like 2 months. Pretty recent. My beard has just grown out a little bit. I probably should trim it up a little, maybe perhaps this weekend. But yeah, that's a pretty recent picture. We're gonna be talking about Legend Seeker. So come with your questions. If you guys have been watching the channel recently, obviously Frost is on 2 times a week. Writing lore for you guys for the Erudi setting guide. And he's doing really strong work with that. Even more than what you guys see on the stream by a lot. That is also becoming a very big document with lots of cool information in it. You'll have seen the return of Effie. Effie has returned. She did her kind of reintroduction stream about 3 weeks ago at this point, and she talked about what she's been up to over the last year and what she's going to be doing. And we showed off some of the art and things like that. I was on there with her, chatted with her, asked her some questions, and she seems very happy to be back. I had a meeting with her this week, in fact, and we went over the next 2 covers. She showed me the, I'm not going to reveal it yet, but she showed me the mock-up of the, well, not the mock-up, that's not the right word, the initial rough sketch of the next cover, which is going to be for the Erudi setting guide. That's the one Frost is writing. And it's going to be pretty cool. I'm very excited about it. I like what she's laid out. And she might be showing that coming up on her next stream, which I believe is on the 17th. So she'll probably be showing that and then her initial beginning of that cover. So make sure to hang out with her. I know that she's very excited to see you guys and had a really good time last time. Yeah, so updates while we're waiting for questions to roll in. And then I'm sure just because I'm rambling and I might miss things, Chrysanth, if there's any questions, you could oh, look, I just got a message from Scott. Hi, Scott. If you would leave that in my DMs, that would be fantastic. All right, so updates. Been working really hard. The Seekers rulebook or the Seeker's Tome, which is generally the player's guide and DM guide in one. That's the core book. That guide is very, very full. It's going to be well over 500 pages, probably about 550 pages. Um, and there is a lot of text in there. Um, and a very the core rules are basically all there. There'll be tweaks here and there, some adjustments, some things will come and go. For example, this is actually a really good example of what I mean. So there's a couple people, one in particular, who really harried me at the beginning about not giving ultra super specifics about the exactness of the rules. There were reasons for that, and like this is a good example. So we went back and forth for a while on doing something that's going to be more of like a proficiency, a heroic proficiency bonus, which is going to be sort of the a standard bonus that everybody gets as they level, and they get up to the levels that that bonus increases over time, and it's a core element of many things. Or if the base attack bonuses were going to be based on individual classes, probably more like akin to 3.5 or Star Wars Saga Edition or something like that, where depending on your class, your starting base of bonuses would go up. And so we went back and forth on those. So that was something that was core to how the system was going to work, but there was no point in announcing anything because we hadn't decided what it's going to be yet. But we're still doing a lot of testing and combining and things like that. So that's what I mean. So it's a lot of refining. The core text is there. How we want the system to generally work, how the magic system works, what the combat system looks like. It's more of the nitty gritty of the stats, going through the spells, and I've got all the spells now laid out, and refining those and balancing them and coming up with the right details and making sure we have the right text you need to use those spells. The classes, kind of the same thing. The core of the classes, like the skeletal structure of them has always been there. It's just now the point that it's picking out the basics. What are you going to get at what levels? What are the talents exactly? How many trees do we need? And what do those trees do? And some of those things are interdependent on other sections. So, for example, like the cleric class or the paladin class, the talent trees you get are based on the deity that you're going to serve, and then those talents give you benefits for serving said deity. So if you are an Arintha worshiper, for example, you'll get some bonuses, divinity spells. That is kind of her specialty. But at the time, early on, the divinity spells weren't really defined yet. So knowing what those talents were wasn't really possible yet. Um, but now that those things are coming together, it's all starting to come together. So it's kind of more at that filling out phase here at the end, before we get ready for starting to do like public tests and like that. It's just the sections are all there, structure's all there. It's just now making key decisions and filling out. Um, what's up, 40 Viking? Good to see you out there. Let's see. Do you think Savvy's trying to poison you remotely? Maybe. It's very possible. Or maybe she just doesn't want me to be able to enjoy my stuff. Maybe she just wants to sap all the joy from my life, and I can't even enjoy a coffee. Well, whatever it is, sunk to the bottom. So maybe I can drink it and be okay. All right, let's see what Chrysantha's gotten me so far here. What? I'm live on Moonskull Kick? No? Wait, Moonskull Kick. All right, fix that. Don't know why that was there. Lynn says, I actually do have a serious question. What is the technological level? Bronze Age, Iron Age, Dark Age, Medieval, Renaissance, older, newer, mixed with Stone Age and super science in different areas? So there's not really a direct correlation with a specific age here, obviously, because magic and otherworldly technologies and things like that involved. But it is it's going to be more high fantasy, right? So if you're familiar with Pathfinder or D or similar settings, it's going to be kind of that same element. It's going to be high fantasy, medieval, um, basically those kind of technologies. There's no guns, so there's no guns in our setting. Um, and there are some automations and stuff, particularly with like the gnomes. So there is some technological aspects there, and of course the keepers have all sorts of strange otherworldly technologies that are beyond the understanding and explanation of the people that live in this universe. It's also a bit of a dark age in the sense of there's information that's been lost, and these people are trying to reclaim after the God Killer Force. So, um, one of the things I wanted to capture was that there are really cool magic items out there, but the ability to actually make those items really isn't known to anybody anymore. There are some mages and artificers who can uh, create some low level magic items, the equivalent of something like a +1 in D&D type weapon. But the really cool stuff can't just be crafted. You have to go out there, you have to go on adventures, you got to find this stuff and acquire it. And those are powerful artifacts that are left over from much stronger earlier ages. Yeah, so an example, and here, I'll show off some new art for you guys. I'm actually just going to go to studio mode. All right. I'm going to show off a character for you that I believe Frost may have previewed in one of his as well. But this is Cassia. Um, she is a noble, and she is one of the legendary characters that represents our classes. So she'll be representing the noble class. So one of the things we're doing with this book is you can make your own characters, but there will be a sample character that is sort of like a legendary character that is in that class that is pre-made that you can just play. So if you're a new person to the system and you just want to dive into the system, um, you can. So Cassia would be the one for the noble, and her story is essentially that she, the real basic version, is that she is studying and seeking out keeper lore specifically. Yeah, this is a concept photo, by the way. So this will be updated over time. But yeah, and the feet will probably be updated as well. But you can see she's got over her shoulder like a little orb looking thing. That is an intelligent construct that follows her around that she is able to command with a remote control rod. And she can also just speak to it and use command words and things like that, but it speaks back and it helps translate Old Keeper text, gives her some bonuses on that. The story version of her, the playable version of her, have that artifact in their inventory, but narratively, this exists for her. Yeah, so that is an example of she doesn't really know how it works. It's kind of golem like. It flies around as a construct, but how this thing was made, what technology is fueling it, um, she can't understand it. She just knows that it works. So, yes, that's an example of kind of how Keeper stuff is. It generally is very complex, and even like the most studied of magical scholars in the setting are puzzled by how the Keepers are able to do. Yeah, I think I think the idea is I think it looks stranger than it is on the feet because that flap of cloth is hiding her legs. But that back boot, I think, is kind of her knee is bent with her foot put down, and then she is standing fully on that front leg. Um, but yeah, so that'll be updated over time. But yeah, that's Cassia. So there'll be characters like that, and I hope that helps at least with the keeper stuff. Yeah. So steel plate, plate mail possibly, but government is mostly feudal. Yeah, there's going to be a variety of governments on here, but yeah, it'll probably mostly be feudal. Um, Frost has been working pretty hard on trying to make each of these cities and kingdoms and stuff operate slightly differently. So when you go somewhere, it's like a new experience, and there's lots to learn and explore and find out. Um, I'm particularly excited about the Azure Kingdom. I like a lot of the stuff in there, quite a bit. Yeah, and I think it's just because of the leg placement, but it's hidden behind that cloth. So, and also I think there, for some reason, the artist didn't put as much texture on the feet compared to everything else, so it looks a little what did Frost say? Doll papery. Wait, doll paper dolly. You know what I mean? Papery, like almost Paper Mario flat, kind of compared to the rest. Um, yeah, that is Cassia. I'll also show you Godwin here. You want to see Godwin? This is our cleric of Senna, who's going to be representing the cleric class. Um, he's got his own little ethereal, familiar butterfly looking thing. He's got his staff and all his vestments and cloth and stuff. Lots of layers and doodads. I think he turned out really cool. Um, so just to give you an idea of the art style of these legendary characters and kind of what they look like. Yeah, I like Godwin a lot. He turned out great. See, and you can see on this one for some he did the feet fully textured on this one, but didn't on Cassia for some reason. So I might have him touch that up. But just to give you kind of a preview of two of the characters that'll be representing those classes, and we have one for each class. So there's a lot of them. There is um well, I'll think about that in a second. Cranky but good. Oh, he doesn't look cranky. He's just okay. Maybe he looks a little serious. Maybe a little serious. There you go. That's Godwin. Other things. So I've been fleshing out the ability section a lot recently. So that's kind of been the key thing I've been working on the last about month is going through all the abilities and really fleshing those out and putting in some individual things that you can do with each skill. Sorry, the skill section is what I meant. Um, and then also I am going through and working on the spells. Like, we've got the basic structure for the spells, but now it's working on that language and making sure the damage is what we want it to be. Something you can do, you're going to have points that currently are being called hero points, but that name's probably going to change here soon. That you can use to either help modify your rolls, or if you're a spellcaster, every spell comes with a little caveat, a special thing you can do if you give up one of those hero points to make the spell slightly stronger. So going through on those spells and determining what those things are, a lot of them have already been decided a while ago, but making sure that those still make sense with all the other stuff that we put in. Are they too powerful? Does it make sense with the spell? Is it taking place of something else like another spell or ability does? You know, that sort of thing. Yes, there are um there are original spells specific to Legend Seeker. Um I don't have Kalion on here to show off, but for example, there is a wizard who is the legendary character for our wizard class. His name's Kalion. And there is a spell, a named spell, kind of similar to like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, that sort of thing. Um, so it's a name spell that is of his making, but now is accessible to other people from his teachings, called Kalion's Arms of Light, and it's a divinity spell that basically the divine arms kind of reach out behind you and are picking at the threads of the mana stream to help you determine potential outcomes of the future to give you kind of advantages in what's to come. So that's an example. Also, we're trying to make spells because our spell system is unique that interact in a way that would only make sense within our spell system. So, for example, since you have what's essentially a spell suite, that's almost kind of like having a hand of cards, and you're kind of throwing those spells down, and eventually they come back over time. You'll have ways to interact with that. There is a creature I just added to the bestiary recently, which I'll be revealing on Patreon, but we can call this a first time listen to on our YouTube channel, first reveal. It is essentially, and I'm probably going to be retooling the name a little bit, but think of it as a mana vampire or a spell vampire. And basically, the creature, while it's fighting you, it has an ability that lets it steal your spells. So while it's fighting you, it can target a caster, and if its roll is higher than the caster's will defense, it randomly pulls a spell card out of that caster's hand and puts it in its own. So that caster loses that spell, and then the spell vampire now has it to cast on its turn. And you don't get that spell back until that creature is destroyed. Am I crazy, or is it a suit of card? Maybe it's a suit. I don't know. I've always pronounced it sweet because that's how it's spelled, but it might be suit. I might be a retard. Might be retard. Let's see. So yeah, so there's definitely original spells. There are some that'll there, and there's some talents that interact with the magic system as well. I swear you could say sweet as well, but maybe not. Maybe it's a suit. Maybe it's um let's see. So is there a vehicle set like for boats? There does seem to be a large amount of coastline on the map. There'll be some generic vehicle rules in the Seeker's Guide. It, it'll mostly be like HP and travel speeds and stuff like that. And then I think in the opening book, at least, coastal travel will be more of a system than like a travel system, more so than a vehicular system starting off. There'll probably be some boats with like some HP on stuff on it, but nothing like super defined. Just kind of travel speeds and things like that. We will be doing so kind of give you a roadmap idea. These first three books, it's going to be the Seeker's Tome, which is essentially the player's guide and DM guide in one. Kind of akin to something like the way Pathfinder or 2E did their core rulebook before they split it all up. And then there's going to be the Tome of Threats, which is sort of the bestiary, and then the Erudi setting guide, and that's going to be the we might be retooling that name too to change it to tome, but Erudi setting tome or something like that. Those will be the three core books, and then the very next two books that will be coming out after that is going to be the first starter adventure and the advanced or the keeper's guide. So there's going to be a keeper's tome, which is going to be sort of an advanced keeper's tome. You don't need it to play the game, but it's going to have more detailed rules on things like that. So it's going to expand out the vehicle systems. It's going to give more optional rules and how to handle certain types of encounters. Like I don't know, for example, how do you have a fight on the back of a giant creature? Maybe there's like a situation where you're on the back of a gargantuan monster. How would that encounter work mechanically? So it's going to have a lot of the more nitty gritty stuff. So you'll see more expansion on that. There probably won't be like a super intense vehicle rule set in the current Seeker's Tome. There'll be some basic travel rules as well as some simple vehicles like carts and general boats. But as far as something that's going to be a little bit more of like intense naval focus, like for pirates and warfare and things like that, that'll probably be expanded on in the Keepers. But yeah, there is a lot of coastlines, so you can definitely expect there's going to be some water adventures too. Probably some underwater adventures as well. Frost, can I abuse that spell when making dinner so I have extra hands to help prepare food? Unfortunately, Frost, no. And not just because the spell's not real. See, those hands can really only interact with the threads of the mana stream. So not very good for trying to handle tangible items in the real world. I'm afraid to tell. I'm afraid to tell. I think I got those all. Don't get on the boat. Um, it's always a good idea to get on a boat and adventure. Nothing bad ever happens on the high seas. Nothing bad whatsoever. Um, yeah. Other ways that I think it's something I was going to say, and I got off track a little bit. Spells will interact with the spell system in unique ways, but so will talents and classes. So for example, uh, there might be a talent or an ability or something that either allows you to change the way you interact with your own spells, maybe getting them back faster, or uh, changing. Think of a good example. So in this system, level 0 spells, which are essentially cantrips, those spells instantly go back into your suit. Um, and so if you play one of the equivalents of a cantrips at the end of your turn, you get that back immediately. Whereas regular spells, you have to wait a full minute. Um, there are some talents on some of the classes that will identify spells that you're like really good at and allow those spells to come back faster. So maybe in only a couple rounds or things like that. There are abilities or talents or spells that can inhibit your opponent, for example. So if you're somebody who wants to play like a really full-on counter caster, yeah, you're going to have counter spells. Yeah, you're going to have dampen spell, which is it lets you because our spells you roll for the result, and on a each spell has kind of like own little chart. And depending on how high you roll, the spell gets stronger. Dampen spell lets you, it's a lower version of counter spell that instead of countering the whole spell, it just essentially dampens how high of a roll they actually got. So their spell comes out a little weaker than they were expecting. You got spells like that, but there are also abilities that'll let you do things similar to that Mana Vampire. Maybe you steal a spell from an opponent, or maybe you can shrink the size of your opponent's quote unquote hand. So their spell cap goes down like by 1 or 2 or something, and then forced to essentially discard 2 of those spells until they can figure out how to get their spell suite back up or suit. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of ways that you'll uniquely interact with the magic system depending on your class, depending on spells, and some of those spells really gear around that as well. And then we've added, of course, original spells that aren't even geared towards interacting with the system. They're just original spells that I thought were really cool. Is drinking a potion a full round action? Can I throw a potion at someone and heal them? Asking for the BG3 simps. So right now, drinking a potion is an action, but that's not as bad as it sounds compared to something like 5e because we're doing a 3-action economy system. So it's just one of your actions. There are no bonus actions in our system, so they're just all you're either moving or you're taking an actual action. So as one of your actions, you would run and give somebody a potion, and you still have the ability to attack. You would have an attack penalty because you took action, right? So, yep, there you go. Valrock says, "Can you shrink the size of other things?" Yes, you can. What those other things are, I suppose, are up to you. But there are certainly spells and talents and abilities that allow that kind of thing to happen. Lynn says, I was looking at the Pathfinder Aquatic Adventures book a few weeks ago. Thinking about making a little undersea adventure of your own? I did not throw 16 serpents at you, Chrysanth. You exaggerate. You exaggerate. Yeah, the horror host. I'm really targeting more of a 3.5 feel. In terms of gameplay, but also in terms of the way that they handled updates and stuff down the road. There was a lot of stuff added over time between classes and prestige classes or advanced classes, I think they were in 3.5, and abilities and spells and stuff. So really, there'll be a big plan to expand on that stuff. And as you said, there'll eventually be something for everyone in that system. And there'll be individual books too. So we're going to have lots of setting guides. So everything you see, a picture of the map to throw up, but everything you see on the map will eventually have its own individual. So the first setting guide is for all of what is essentially the Godlands, and that is the first explorable region of Erudia. Eventually, that map will expand outwards, and there'll be other regions you can look at. But the Godlands itself is kind of the key one. That's where the gods actually walked. That's where the God Killer War happened, and that's where a huge chunk of the history that you're going to be exploring in the outset of this system will be. So the initial guide is going to cover all of that in a generic fashion. So it's going to be like, this is the Azure Kingdom. Here are the cities in the Azure Kingdom, and here are some iconic places, and here's some stuff you should know about it. What kind of government it is? What is the population? Here's some local legends, and it's going to do that on kind of a macro level across the board. This is going to talk about organizations that are common in the area, unique monsters that are specific to the Godlands. It's going to talk about the Pantheon, all of that kind of stuff. Later on, as we start actually making the adventures, and you're actually getting to go in and explore these places in official capacities, there'll be setting guides that'll more or less correlate either before or about the same time as those adventure releases that will expand on those. There might be an Azure Kingdom setting guide. So it kind of zooms in, and now you're going to learn a lot about the Azure Kingdom. It's really going to break stuff down. You'll actually get some actual maps. You'll get some ideas about individuals and key locations and creatures and things like that, legendary creatures that exist there. So the game plan is it will expand over time, and there will also be kind of think advanced player guides and Pathfinder type releases, where it just opens up more tool sets for classes, for abilities. You'll get more of those talent trees to add to the core classes, and more advanced prestige classes, as well as edges and different ways that you can use your skills and stuff. So it will expand over time, which I'm really excited about. Let's is that because the time I pointed out the magical nipple clamps were in third edition? I'm not going to say that that influenced my decision. I'm not going to say that it didn't. I will leave that to your imagination. Frost says, I can chug 3 beers in a round then. Yeah, if you would like to get toasted really fast in our setting, yeah, use your 3-round action to just chug 3 beers. Chris Hint says, would that mean there could be a talent for shotgunning alcohol so you can do 3 drinks in 1 action? Maybe there's a drunken style monk combat tree or something like that. That would be fun. Or a drunken brawler type of warrior type talent tree. That would also be fun. Who knows what could exist in the future? Let's see. Something else I'll kind of show. So there have been several questions about system and like specifics and stuff regarding stats, and I've been hesitant to put things out because things are constantly in motion as we ponder things. So sometimes we'll get to a point where we're coming up with another part of the system. For example, we were trying to work out the poison system and how that's going to function, and it really brought up some questions. My original philosophy was there are no saving throws; everything just attacks your defenses. And then when we started looking at things like curses and poisons and stuff like that, it did bring up the question again. Well, do we really not want saving throws? Yes, I know the drunken monk doesn't really get drunk. I know. I was just having flashbacks to the Warcraft 3 Pandaren hero. I don't know if you guys remember him. He's supposed to be like a Pandaren monk, but he also was a brewer. He would drink his own brew and like shoot out like flames. I loved that character. Before they turned it into like a whole damn race and continent. What was the thing? Oh no. Oh no. My brain lost what I was talking about. So we went back and forth on the saving throws issue. Um, and I ended up settling on wanting to keep it the way that I had it, but it's just one of those things that it's like I don't want it to be too confusing. I like to try to announce things when they're actually ready, and we feel with about a 90% degree certainty this is going to be the mechanic because not everybody has time to watch every video, and so it can get really confusing when you have multiple people who've heard different ways the system are going to run as we've made updates over time. Um, and then they're confused when the actual product comes out, or they're having cross conversation and stuff like that. Um, oh, the Pandaren expansion? If you say so, I'll take your word for it. I'm going to show you the character sheet, and I'm going to show you this with the caveat that this is the original draft. It has since been going through some revisions, so this won't be the most current version of even the stats and what they'll look like. So, I'll lock stuff down so it'll quit highlighting everything. What is this? Really annoying me. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. You know what? I'm just gonna lock all this. Watch it light up every time I hover over. It's really bugging my OCD. Not that I have OCD. Lock. All right, there we go. All right, no more highlights. Oh, that makes me better. But this is the general layout, and there's also a backside or second sheet, if you will, that I'm not showing here. That'll have all the skills on it. But this is the general layout right now, and a lot of this will probably change next time you see it. It's got the stamina points, it's got the hit points, it's got a condition tree, it's got your defenses, and it's got a place for your weapons, and special traits, and things like that. There is a spot on here somewhere for heroic proficiency that might be going away. And there's going to be something else added to this front sheet called momentum, which isn't on here yet. So it's a completely evolving process. It will be very different from this a month from now. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I've been slow rolling the exact details, because I just wanted to make sure that we were giving you guys what's likely to be what you should expect when the system is in your hands. Yes, there will be stamina and hit points. So the way we're going to be operating hit points in this system, stamina is easy to recover, and so in most systems, modern day, they say hit points represents everything: your ability to avoid damage, to dodge, your stamina, countering blows, but also eventually actually taking wounds, which is all right. I wanted a more concrete way to do that. So stamina points is sort of your representation of all of that other stuff. That is you dodging. That is you parrying. That is you rolling out of the way and not getting hit. That is, and you can recover that faster. So when you sit down and you take your little breather after combat, those fill up very quickly. Your hit points are your actual physical well-being. So once the stamina points are gone, if you think of them as sort of like a shield layer, once those shield points are gone, your stamina points, you actually start taking wounds to your actual hit points. And at that point, you're taking physical damage, and you don't have a lot of those. Your hit points are much smaller than your stamina pool, and you're really in some dangerous territory there, and that heals a lot slower. You only get a couple of those back per night. So on a long rest, you don't just get all your hit points back. You'll get your stamina points back, but your hit points take longer. So once you start getting into that hit point range, you're in some trouble, and probably need to either be using some abilities to restore stamina or get yourself out of combat or something, because that's going to have a much bigger impact on you. So yeah, that'll definitely be two separate pools that recover slightly differently, and it's an indicator of how much danger you're in. If you've gotten through all your stamina points and you're starting to take hit point damage, that's a bad sign. You probably want to get yourself out of there or have somebody fix you up pronto. I'm not going to have a golden hour. No, no, there's no golden hour. Um, and essentially, so just hit points are harder to heal in general. Um, I'm still kind of working on the healing spells a little bit. So this is one of those things that I've been going back and forth on whether there are going to be spells specifically for recovering stamina versus hit points, um, or if the healing spells will just interact slightly differently between the hit points and stamina depending on what you have. So that part I'm still kind of going back and forth on. But the general idea is the stamina points are very easy to heal. You can get them back after combat just by doing a 10-minute breather. During combat, you might have abilities that beat those up, something akin to like a second wind, um, spells or abilities or talents. Whereas hit points are very slow, and even magic, it's harder to heal those wounds because it's actual physical wounds. And lore wise, running the mana stream through you directly is always risky, anyways. So healing wounds is done with slower and with more care and with less quantity. So yeah, it does not heal you up the same way that it does on stamina. Your long rests obviously will only give you back a few hit points. It's a slower recovery process. And the equivalent to like a medical or treat injury skill in our system. Right now, I have it set up to basically restore stamina points. Um, I've been considering pulling that over to hit points and just making the results smaller, with the caveat of it only working one day. Um, there's only so much you can do to treat real physical injuries with bandages in a day. So there are some healing spells that will cost the spellcaster their own hit points. In fact, there's a whole tree regarding this. So there's a few things about the magic system that I like that are outside of just the core system. One, there is the corruption. So when you channel the mana stream through you directly, it's always higher risk, but you can also do it through a focus. But if you delve into the magic too often, or you try to get a burst of extra magic in a fight, there are ways you can reach out and try to get an increased effect when you're desperate. Um, that extra exposure to the mana stream begins to corrupt you because the mana stream itself is at its core destructive and malevolent. And while it can be used to do great and wonderful things, if you let it in too much, it can eventually consume you and take you over. So that is one aspect that can be very dangerous. But then there's also something in this setting called blood magic, and it is very taboo. None of the magic schools or towers or academies or most people will not touch blood magic. It is extremely dangerous. One, because it does require channeling the mana stream through you directly. But it also has percentage chances of attracting the attentions of demons. But basically, you can use your own blood to enhance spells and do things like heal. So there'll be some blood magic spells and talents, and this will be kind of the equivalent of kind of like the Oathbreaker Paladin from 5e. It's going to be a talent tree that is technically in the keepers section to use, but if allowed, could be made accessible to a player. Um, and blood magic is dangerous, but yes, you can do things like sacrifice your hit points to heal allies. Um, and that could be interesting too if you just had regular spells. Kind of think about That might be an interesting if you want to heal SP. If you want to heal HP instead of SP, I could either have them give up hit points or take corruption for healing HP over SP. That might be an idea. I'm going to consider. So that could be a way to handle that as well. Yeah, I'm going to give that a little bit more consideration as well. All right. Yeah, so that could be a way to do it too. And there could even be a good version. That could just simply be a talent. So even if I don't do it with general magic, that could be something, for example, maybe that druids do, or some version of a life cleric might do. Interesting. I'm gonna look at that as well. All right. Back to okay. How does that actually work? If the mana stream corrupts the more it's relied on, how does that translate mechanically, or have you not fully worked that out yet? So that happens in a few ways. Um, so most spell, so let me see, what's a good example? 5e, I think Pathfinder as well. Um, some classes require you to have a focus, right, or a holy symbol or something to be able to cast your spells. You take it away from you, suddenly you can't cast your spells. In this system, that's partially true. Um, you have to have those things to cast spells safely. So wizards will have their own focus or instrument, like a wand or something. Clerics will have their holy symbol or whatever. And as long as you have that item and you're casting your spells, you're actually channeling the mana stream through that focus or that item, and therefore avoiding the corruption. If you were to ever somehow lose that item, if it was taken out of your possession or whatever, now you can still access your powers, but you're channeling it through you, and you'll start taking corruption for doing that, because it's just so dangerous. The only class that channels the mana stream through themselves on purpose is the monk in the system. The monk has the ability to do that, and there is a roll you'll make to try to avoid corruption. But because of their training and their discipline and their attunement with their body, they're able to do that and have a higher level of resistance, but it's still risky. So they still can gain corruption, but they are less likely to do so. Other ways, if you try to, so that's the channeling through your body. The other way is to delve too deep too often. So there is going to be a basic mechanic that whatever spell you're casting, you can try to cast it at essentially a rank higher in trade for corruption. That's you delving too deep. The other way is there are certain spells that are essentially classified as evil spells, that are used for very destructive purposes, and the mana stream really likes that because it is malevolent at its core, and it is raw and destructive when left to its own will and devices. So it is highly attuned to those types of spells. If you use those spells, you can automatically get corruption. Um, so that's a way. And then there are some things that target you with corruption. There are going to be dark entities out there. There are dark entities out there that can do things, like they might have a temptation mechanic, perhaps, where it's an ability that they make a roll against your will defense, and if they beat it, rather than doing straight up HP damage to you or something like that, they might just straight up give you corruption. Um, so kind of pushing the mana stream through you directly, to try to pull you into their evil ways. So there are several ways you can get corruption. It'll be a highly targetable mechanic as well. But not like you're not going to walk around with goblins doing that. Obviously, it'll be like specific creatures and things like, well, maybe or shamanistic goblin with a unique backstory, but generally it'll be like a specific type of creature, some sort of like I don't know, maybe otherworldly being, something kind of Cthulhu-ish or something that might play on your fears or your madness and trying to push you, stuff like that. Um, there was an outline actually for a creature that I haven't fully fleshed out yet. I have it sitting over my notes. That is sort of a, not a countercaster, but it's sort of a temptation countercaster. So whenever a creature that's within a certain range of it tries to cast a spell against it, they must either take a corruption point or get -5 to their roll. Um, and the player gets to choose, obviously, but the idea is the creature is trying to tempt you into being rash and delving too deeply and things like that, and corrupting you while combat's going, tempting you with its evil ways. So yeah, so lots of ways to interact with corruption specifically. Is there a transition race that can regen hit points and limbs? Kind of. We have the lizard folk. Um, they're not exactly like transitions, but they've got some things. They've got some things that you might like. Magical fishing scams? Yes, exactly. Hey, Sir Clueless. Glad to see you here. I prefer the more heroic giving of life, not the CD taboo type. I mean, they'll probably be on the heroic side. It's probably going to be more of a class feature to that than a spell. That would probably be either like a druid calling upon the essence of himself through nature to heal, or maybe some sort of like life cleric or something like that. Taxes are jail? Yes, that'll be a spell for sure. Off topic. How do you plan to use Chrysanth's side business to promote Legend Seeker? Does that involve hiring booth babes with paddles at various conventions? Wow, that is a good question. A feline named Vijay. You know, honestly, I, I wasn't going to. I was worried about her lifestyle. Not because I'm not accepting of it, Chrysanth. Okay, I'm very accepting of your lifestyle. We definitely tolerate that here. But I am worried about, those satanic panic type folks maybe turning their nose up at having that kind of business promoting our stuff. So I was not going to approach that, but Chrysanth did offer. She did offer in my DMs that she would get custom made paddles that have the word Legend Seeker cut out of them, so that when she uses them, it will leave a an imprint on their behind. Um, I have not taken up that offer yet, but it was very kind of her to offer, for sure, for sure. I wonder if the schools of magic will teach and test students and apprentices on resisting. Yes, that is. So I am currently working on the lore specifically of what is called the towers, the 8 towers right now. Um, and that is specifically what they're around for. These towers exist specifically because magic is so dangerous. And so it was decided, and as of yet named Pact and Erudian history, um, that having places where students who are mana sensitive can learn to harness those powers and not cause mass destruction and lose themselves to it and stuff, they can go. So intense studies and things like that. Um, if you're a wizard class, you pretty much guaranteed came from a tower as part of your backstory. Several towers for you to pick from. Think about. It is unlikely that you went and scholared yourself, um, because it is dangerous. And most towns and most cities, if they find out you have that latent ability to tap into the mana stream that way, um, they might even through their laws and systems force you to go to one of these towers. So you'll find a lot of cases where parents who are afraid to lose their children, for example, hide those latent abilities, because they're afraid their kids will get taken away and things like that. But that's not always true. There are some characters out there who have self-studied and it's pretty dangerous. Pretty dangerous. Is there a Jedi class? Kind of. The monks are a little bit Jedi-like. Our monks aren't just martial monks. They also have a psionics aspect to their class as well. Um, and they also, again, they channel the stream directly through their bodies, and they have temples that are dedicated to this art, and they have a code and things like that. So they're kind of Jedi-like. And there are fallen monks who failed with their disciplines, or they didn't train well enough and were ultimately corrupted. Kind they don't have lightsabers, obviously, but they do have cool like psionic attacks and stuff. So like they might leak from a tree and sort of almost quite Dragon Ball Z. It's a little too cartoonish, but they'll do things like by channeling the mana stream and then converting it to ki, like throw out a blast or something that might impact the ground and knock people backwards, things like that. So they're pretty cool. Um, you're not wrong though. Star Wars is also in need of some serious repairs. Return to the good old days with booth babes selling. I'm not against that at all. When it gets to the point where we're doing convention stuff, I will strongly consider. Um, I will strongly consider some booth babes and cosplayers for you guys. It'd be really nice, and I would like to see some really nice cosplay. Are the towers one university or 8 separate remote regions? Um, so I'm still in the middle of figuring that part out. My original thought in the original concept I had were that the 8 towers, so there were 8 wizards that came together who tried to come up with a unified concept. They couldn't get on the same page. They all went their own separate ways and made their own towers. And those regions that are close to those towers tend to use those towers specifically, but each tower has their own school of thought, their own focus on certain types of magics and things like that. Um, so that was my original thought. Um, I have been playing around with a version where they're all unified in their mission as well. I don't know if I like that one as much. So I think it's probably going to be the 8 separate towers concept, and some of them have very unique missions too. I was just, I'll reveal this. It's not finalized, but I can't share it on the screen, but I can read it to you. I just sent this over to Frost. We were reviewing one of the first towers, which I have just put the placeholder of Tower of Dusk for now. That's probably not going to be the final name. I just needed something to call it. The Tower of Dusk stands like a blackened fang on the blighted horizon of the Shatter Wastes, a cursed land where the dead never rest. Of the 8 mage towers, it is the most feared and least envied, not because of its dangers to the world, but because of the price it demands from those who serve within. Tasked with a singular and ceaseless mission, the Tower of Dusk is charged with containing the unending tide of undead that rise from the cursed soil of the region. These revenants are not merely reanimated corpses. They are born of a festering blight that defies even Mordecai's dominion, suggesting some foul corruption still pulses beneath the land from the Godkiller War. Mages here fight not for power or for glory, but for the world's continued safety, holding the line against the grim paladins of holding the line alongside the grim paladins of the Ebon Sentinels who serve Mordecai, god of death. For magic wielders, with their latent power but no place in society, be they criminals, slaves, exiles, or even political inconveniences, the Tower of Dusk is often their only path forward. It is said that those with the spark can be purchased or sent to the tower as a sentence for criminal activity, where their gifts are refined through relentless combat against the undead. The training is harsh but unparalleled, producing spellcasters of terrifying skill and focus. However, the price is steep. Every initiate must swear a binding oath to remain in the service for a minimum of 20 years. During this time, they may not leave the tower grounds without direct permission from the Archmage of Dusk, and most never see the outside world again. Among the eight, the Tower of Dusk is both a crucible and a cage. It is not whispered about in courtly halls or bardic tales with the same awe as the other towers. It is spoken of with dread. Those emerge from the tower after their service, if they survive, are changed, haunted, pale, but powerful. So that one almost has its own purpose. That is beyond just being an academy. It's also defense against something that nobody has an answer to yet. So that's an example. Each of the towers will kind of have their own story and purpose and what have you, and kind of determining which tower you came from as a mage very important. Sir Clueless said earlier you mentioned ominous goblin. Could have like a red cap or a hobgoblin-like character who's a dark sage, maybe like an evil Yoda. That would be pretty fun. Yeah, there'll definitely be a lot of unique characters. Obviously, break all the norms, for sure. So there'll be some. I'm sure there'll be some very unique goblin characters, maybe even just like that in the future. Could have a tower. Oh wait, sorry. Let me go back up. I think I missed something. The fallen monks should wield blood magic swords that are red. Wow, a little on the nose there, Keaton. A little on the nose. I know someone who could do a dead on Goddess Kika. Do a dead. I don't know what that means. All right, let's see. So more Ars Magica than Isle or Hogwarts. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of similar a little bit to Dragon Age. Dragon Age has something kind of like that. But without the abomination stuff. Could have a tower that's all about the cleansing of the land of evil creatures, while another's focus on protecting life. The two towers that should have similar goals, but run into conflict more often. Yeah, that could be. That could be. Still fleshing out what I want those purposes to be, and what have you. But yeah, definitely. Right now, the thought is these archmages that went off to make their towers all had very different ideas of how they thought that should be handled. Oh, a dead-on impression. You know what? That makes sense. Got it. Got it. Shut up, Keaton. Canadian woman living in the Orlando area. You know, she probably could. She probably could do a dead-on Kika. You are right. There is a goddess Kika in Legend Seeker. Yeah, the pantheon. Kika is the goddess of mischief and trickery. That was that character was a early test concept of the goddess that was going to be in this pantheon. Yes, that is a the Nuggets of Nya is like a little level 1 to 3 opening adventure for Legend. That is correct. Make sure those towers are built well. I heard steel beams are hard to break. I will pass that on to the mages for you. And speaking of, yeah, if you haven't got a chance to read that stuff and you're interested in learning more about the lore, kind of at your own pace, go check out our Patreon. If you're not already a member, you can sign up for free for a 7-day kind of like preview and go in and take a look at everything that's been written so far, learn about the Pantheon, learn about the God Killer War, and any of the information and stuff that we've released. And then if you like what you see and you want to continue on to financially support as well, that would be fantastic. Our biggest bottleneck right now is the art. I know I've been hammering that a lot because it's true. It it's not cheap and it's not quick to produce the art for this book. All three books, I should say. Um, and so the support that we get through the Patreon is like crucial for that. That is where about 90% of that money is going right now, is to getting that art put out there. So I was there when the ancient texts were written. Well, that is good. That is good, Sir Clueless. See if I got anything else I want to show you. Some things that I can show off that I don't think I may have showed off on some other streams. Like I think I showed some of this off on Effie's stream, but this is Viridethra. She is a emerald dragon, an ancient one. Very powerful, the size of a giant hill, covered in old moss and algae and stuff that have just been growing on her emerald scales over time. And she's actually going to be on the next cover. So the concept cover that Effie just sent me the other night after our meeting, she is prominently featured on that cover. So that is her. That is a concept drawing, of course. And I think I showed off the mock-up of the final cover. Book cover. So that is essentially what the books are going to look like in style overall. So you guys can kind of see that leather border with the metallic corner protectors, the logo in the center, the dark spine with large text, and the mini Legend Seeker logo, plus the stitched name at the bottom. That is going to be sort of the cover style for all the books, with the obviously the art that's behind it changed every time. And that art you see on the cover is the final version of the first cover. So that is after Effie was done with everything, how that turned out. Obviously, there'll be some text on the back. But I think it turned out pretty damn good. I think it looks awesome. Hopefully you guys do too. But I really wanted to get that kind of old school vibe while still having some really cool art on there. So I really like that kind of leather touch. I know it's kind of popular right now and in style. If you go on Kickstarter and look at basically any other tabletop book, they're all still doing the full art covers that just have minimal text on them. But I really wanted to get kind of a cool tome-like feel to these. And the full art will still be inside. So you can go into the book and see a full page insert of the cover art unimpeded by the trimmings or the trappings. And of course, if you really like it, we'll probably have posters and things like that available. But covered by Moss, I didn't know he was into dragons. You'd be surprised the things that Moss is into. He'll also, by the way, be writing the Nuggets of Nia is like a little mini starter, just kind of like a preview adventure. The actual starter adventure is going to be more of like a level 1 through 5 fully fleshed out adventure. Moss will be writing that. So if you weren't aware of that, he's joining the team or has joined the team and working on that as we speak. I don't think it's going to be simultaneous release with the course system. As I said, it's probably going to be the starter adventure, and the Keeper's Tome will be the next pair of books that release after the course set. A giant hill. I swear there was a name for that, says Jen. Oh, you smartass, says Jensen. What was it? Ah, yes, a mountain. Thank you, Jensen. Thank you for that. This is more hilly, okay? Because she's green and covered in moss and algae. Not a typical mountainous look, okay? Thank you. But yeah. What other questions you guys got for me? I think I've showed you all the art I can reveal for right now. Everything else is going to be patron exclusive for the time being. Oh, you know what I can show you? Just that's coming up. Well, obviously, yeah, Moss checks a lot of DEI boxes. I had to make sure that I hired him. I'm going to go to studio mode for this. Just to make sure that I want to Oops, that's not what damn, I can type. I swear I can. Oh, do I have it on? Have it on here. If not, I can download it real quick. Damn, download it real quick. All right, let me grab it. All right, I know I sent it to you at some point. Let's see. Yeah. Can't show that yet. So, yeah. We're also going to be working on some actual lore videos, not just live streams. So you'll start seeing some videos and stuff coming up in the future as well. And I may or may not be working with somebody we all know and love on that. But I'll announce more about that. Get there. Okay, here we go. All right, we're gonna go back to regular mode. All right, so coming up in the near future, we have already started planning this stream. So you'll eventually see this thumbnail coming up here, probably the next couple weeks, where Frost and Moss and myself will be building a character live on stream for you guys to kind of show what that'll look like. Because I know there have been some questions about character builds and wanting to see what it looks like. So we're gonna be building that lizard guy there that you see. He is the class representation for our barbarian class. We're going to be building his stats and showing you what his level 1 build would look like. So, yes, Moss finally got a good picture. I had to I had to make him go take a selfie, so we didn't have to keep pulling pictures from his streams. So there it is. So that will be coming down the road. When you see that thumbnail appear on your timeline, that'll be a stream you'll want to check out for sure. Very true. Moss is a ginger. And will be replaced by POC. I mean, no, technically he already got his card though, right? He got his card, so he should be good. He should be good. All right, we've probably got about 10 more minutes left in the stream. So if you've got any last minute pressing questions that you would like we'd like to ask, this would be the time to do it. To our Legends chat real quick. You're right, there are not enough reptilian barbarians. I agree. I agree. Lizard folk. The lizard folk will have minor regeneration ability. I know Keaton was asking about that. They don't believe in the scorekeeper though, so you're probably going to be out of luck on that one, unless your lizard folk is just crazy and has some delusional scorekeeper in his head, I guess. Why am I the way that I am? Oh, that's a long question that I can't answer in 10 minutes. A lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. Will they be able to unhinge their jaws? Maybe. Possibly. I don't have that built in. I'm pretty sure most lizards can, right? Oh, I guess they're not technically actually lizards. They're just lizard folk. I think if you work hard at anything, anything is possible. Like a contortionist, just with your jaws. I would need probably 2 streams to answer that question, Velrock. That is long. That is a long, long, long question or answer, I should say. Pressing questions. Where do you press on a lady for her to fall in love with you? Wow. Well, it depends on the woman. It's different for every woman. We'll just leave it at that. Um, Mort might have some ideas for you. You definitely should ask Mort those questions. He'll probably have all sorts of places. Right? Do lizard folk women have boobies? No, they do not. Sorry. Sorry, Valrock. For our single viewers. Oh, God. I misgrammared at that. Making sure I didn't scroll past anything. They ain't mammals, they ain't got boobies. That's about right. That is about right. I didn't say they aren't reptiles. I said they're not strictly speaking lizards. Okay? I said they're not strictly speaking lizards. Um, Certainly, they have a lot of reptilian features. I will say that they probably aren't going to be able to reproduce with other humanoids unless they are also lizard folk. So if you want to have a human and lizard folk romance story, it's going to be a childless one, which is okay. Children aren't for everyone. Don't worry, I'm sure there's some sort of item in the game that'll give them boobs. Look, if you want to homebrew the lizard folk having boobs in your campaign, you can certainly do that. That is, I do not want to deny you your scaly breasts. I think we did decide they had what are they called? Nictating membranes. Protect his eyes or their eyes. Trying to think if there was anything else I specifically wanted to share with you guys, but I think I've gone over everything that I wanted to throw out there. So Effie's next stream will be on the 17th, and you'll actually get to see her start working on cover number 2. I'll probably show the I keep calling them charcoal drawings. He's correcting me and telling me that they're not charcoal, they're something. I've already forgot again. But it looks like one of those like one of those YouTube like charcoal artists who they throw all the black on there and then they like start moving the charcoal around to make the picture show up or whatever. It's got that cool like kind of black and white feel. She called it a something else though. But basically the preview of the cover, I think she'll probably be showing that off, and then actually working on the cover itself. So you guys will get to finally see cover 2 shaping up. You can at times call a female lizard folk clever girl. I will always approve of that for sure. That cover is going to feature 4 of the legendary class characters. It'll have that barbarian I just showed you guys, the lizard folk barbarian. He's going to be on there. We're going to have a mum, so you get your first look at a mum. He'll be on there. The wizard Kalion will be on there, as well as God. I just blanked on the 4th person. Um, um, monk, third. I don't know why I'm blanking so hard on that, but the fourth character will be on there as well. Um, Effie. That should trigger my memory. Oh, Godwin the cleric. He'll be on there as well. Um, and they'll be looking at a beautiful vista of sort of a emerald hillside, and among those hills, you will see the beautiful ancient green dragon that I showed you earlier, resting as she protects a very large special tree in the lore that I won't talk about now. You might also see some Rudy Poos on the left side of that cover, so it looks pretty cool, even just in the little sketch or whatever uh, charcoal drawing. Looks pretty sweet. Should have made the lizard a wizard. Missed opportunity. Wow. You know, Velrock, if you become a Mythic member, we do have some slots available for our Mythic Patreon members. After 6 months of retaining that membership, you can create your own character in our lore. That'll be iconic and known throughout the lands, and you could make the Lizard Wizard if you'd like, and it will no longer be a missed opportunity. I think that would be fantastic. Um, oh, that's something else I gotta say. I don't know if I said that on the channel yet, but the Mythic members will be getting an additional perk. So if you happen to be supporting at Mythic now or plan to in the future, at the 6 month mark, you get to work with me to co-create a iconic character that'll be prevalent in our system in a meaningful way, not just like some random shopkeep, but somebody who's actually very important and has an important place in the history of the land. At the 1 year mark, we will be doing a mini of Grix, and I say mini; it'll be a little bit bigger than probably like a standard elf mini or something. Um, and we're gonna right now we're aiming to have them painted as well, so you'll get an exclusive miniature of Grix, who is our most evil god in our setting, who is the person who sparked the God Killer War and all of that stuff. The guy in the background, on the screen right now, that guy. Um, we'll have a miniature of him, and Keaton will be designing that. In fact, um, so he'll be doing that, and then we'll be getting somebody very cool to paint that as well. I won't say who just yet, but it should be pretty cool. Um, well, you know what, Sir Clueless, you say that, but Chrysanth is a Mythic member and has been dragging her feet on designing her character and tried to make a shopkeep. And I was like, no, no, no. Unless you're going to make some crazy ass, really interesting shopkeep, no. Um, she's crazy. Yes, there are two exclusive races to Legend Seeker: the Soul Forged and the Mums. And they won't be the only exclusive races long term, but in terms of playable races out of the gate, yeah, they are exclusive. The Mums are sort of the in a very basic way plant people, sentient plant people, and they've got a really cool backstory involving the Brotherhood of the Gilded Veil, which is sort of this order of wizards who went off into this jungle region to do experiments that the towers generally would frown upon. And they made all sorts of bizarre creations, including the Mums. Um, and eventually the Mums go out and form their own society once that all falls apart. And then the Soul Forged are sort of a golem looking race. They're stone characters with souls trapped in them, and they are so Grix, the guy in the background during the God Killer War, deceived and tricked essentially an entire race of people into serving him by promising them eternal life, and he gave that to them by trapping their bodies in these stone constructs, binding them to his will, and they basically ended up being enslaved spirits that fueled these stormtroopers essentially for him that were his front lines in the war. And eventually during the war, they found a way to break those chains and set the Soul Forged free, but obviously long after their bodies were gone and decomposed, so they were trapped in these forms forever. And not only were they trapped in these forms forever, they also had to bear with the fact that they were prisoners in their own body and had to watch themselves commit these atrocities they never wanted uh, to do. So, um, pretty cool race. They have two variants. There's sort of like a warrior build variant and a spellcaster variant. They were designed for two very different purposes. Um, and you get certain benefits depending on which body style for that. Uh, Grognard with a doubt. Oh, coming in with a tough one right at the end here. Is there a subsystem that you feel really breaks new ground, something not owing to or rooted in any current OGLs that you'd be willing to speak on here? That is kind of a broad question. I don't know all the OGLs. I feel like our magic system is going to be pretty unique in the way that it's going to interact. That's probably the most unique system. We'll be doing things differently. A lot of stuff we've already kind of announced, right? So I just don't know. I know what differs from 5e and what differs from Pathfinder in the systems that I've played. So I say this broadly, not knowing if there are other OGLs or other systems that might have these concepts. There are a lot of systems out there. So I doubt anything that we ultimately ever do will be brand new, brand new. But for example, when we roll the d20s and stuff, in most OGLs that I know of and have played, the result's always static. So if you, I don't know, if you attack somebody and their armor class is 10 and you get a 40, it's the same result no matter what, typically, in most systems that have OGLs. And we're not using an OGL, by the way. So we won't actually be attributing to any licensing system, something in our product. But in ours, we wanted it to be more impactful. So it's exciting when you roll high. So when you roll higher by certain intervals, things will get better for you. Either your damage will increase, or if skill, the effect of that skill will come out better. If you get enough of those intervals, it might even have a special qualifier added to it, such as a major hit. For example, is like a and then there'll be certain abilities that trigger on that. So, for example, if you're a barbarian and you have a talent that activates on a heavy hit or a major hit, that would happen with so many raises. Transcendent. No, that's a bot. That's a bot. No, not body type A and body type. Well, I mean, I guess technically for the Soul Forge, it is. But not based on gender, we will say. So that would be one. The way our spell system works interactively, in terms of both the core mechanics, but also the way that our classes and our talents and even some edges, those things can actually change the way you play with the magic system. I gave a few examples earlier. So if you go back to the beginning of the stream, you'll hear some of those. But for example, there might be, if you take certain talents, that you're able to cast certain spells more frequently and they return to your hand. You can also do things that might expand or shrink a hand size. You can do things like steal spells out of somebody else's repertoire and then cast it as your own. So there's lots of really cool things in the magic system specifically that I am very excited about. Else? The momentum system is something that I don't think is present in any OGLs that I can think of, at least not in the sense of how we're doing it. So that system is to make martial classes a little more exciting. It's basically a resource you generate. So it's not a new concept. in video games, I know there's certain concepts like that. So if you've played oh, called the RPG that just Expedition 33. If you play that game, there are some strikes that as you hit, you build those points that you can spend. I'm blanking on their names right now to make the ability more powerful. So that exists kind of in our martial classes. So like when you're fighting and you trigger certain events, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about like heavy hits and things like that. So the barbarian has its own way of producing momentum. The warrior has its own way of producing. Monk has its own way of producing momentum, and as you build up your momentum points, um, which currently has a cap of 4, you can then spend those momentum points to do something really cool in combat. So it's not just I swing every turn, I swing every turn, I swing every turn. You can actually do some really cool stuff. Um, I don't know if that answers your question. It's a very broad one and not one I can answer all in one sitting for sure. And I would have to consider what other OGLs are out there, but Um, there's and he said subs specifically too. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. If you have like a specific question about a specific area that you're curious about, it's a pretty large question. Yeah, like I said, it's gonna be we've got I have about 550, so 500 to 550 pages worth of text. Um, when I'm done, so a lot to answer that question. Tired of streaming to zero. Wow, transcendent, not sure dot fx. I don't think we're streaming quite to zero here. I don't know if you're still here, Grognard with a doubt, but if you have further questions, feel free to let us know. I'll give us a couple more minutes here since we get a cool question there at the end. And actually, I'll take a look at the book too, if there's anything else I can throw out there is ready for reveal. Ahola. Hola. Or Ola. Rule book. Let me look at my. Oh, wow. That is taking way too long to open. Right, there we go. All right. A lot of this will feel pretty standard D20 stuff, sure. If you've played a D20 system of any kind from any publisher, a lot of this you'll be right at home for. Druids, we're going to be doing a little bit differently. So that might be a subsystem. If that's what you mean. So the way we're handling druids, that the shape shifting rather than it being the DM going into a book and having to pull out a random creature, the druids in our system don't actually become the creature; they imitate its form, and they're able to imitate more and more complex forms the higher level they get. So essentially, you'll get a temporary hit point boost that represents you transforming into whatever creature it is, and then there will be a table of traits. And based on your rank and skill, you can pick a certain number of traits, and some of them will unlock in terms of advancement the higher level you go as well. Um, and so you sort of kind of build a creature right on your sheet without having to thumb to the book and find something all the time. So if you just know a creature you want to be, like a wolf or something, you can do a close imitation of a wolf without actually being a wolf. So that might be something unique. Obviously, I think the magic system is extremely unique. everything we're doing on there, the way it functions, the corruption and things like that. Um, I think in terms of how combat feels, it's going to be pretty standard. Um, I'm basically thinking of all the things that I've loved across all the systems I've ever played and trying to put together what I think will be the most fun and exciting version of everything. So it'll be pretty standard D20. You know, you take your round, you take your turn, you roll a D20, and you do your initiative. But we'll have a 3 action economy with movement built into it, uh, with multi-action penalties when you use more and more of those actions. So you can either choose to do something really strongly with just one really good action, or you could try to do multiple things in one turn and risk those all being a little bit harder to do because you try to do more at one time. I said wolf, wolf, and our crits are different. So that'll be cascading, similar to like Savage Worlds. They have an open-ended, no cap exploding dice system. Um, all our rolls are not that way, but if you crit, the damage then uncaps and allows you to explode. So I think that is a original subsystem we have here. I think that's it. I think that's all off the top of my head that I would say. I don't know if that person's still around. So hopefully that answered that. And if not, I hope it was some good stuff for you guys. Hey, what's up, Two's Nose? And it's Wolf. It's Wolf. I hate all of you. Are they just palindromes? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But all right, I think that basically wraps us. Thank you for that question at the end. We did go a little over to answer that, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I don't know when the next Q&A will be. You will see some more frequent streams starting to come on or here, and it'll be a variety. So aside from the Frost written streams, Moss will begin doing some adventure writing streams, where he won't necessarily be doing exactly what Frost is. I don't think he's going to write verbatim the adventure right in front of you and spoil it. But he might be writing it while talking to you guys about the system and maybe posing some questions that he's pondering, like, how can I make an interesting encounter out of this idea? Obviously, Effie will be doing her art streams, and then there will be some Q&A streams that are going to be some sort of combination of the three of us. So sometimes it might just be me, sometimes it might just be Frost, sometimes it might just be Moss, sometimes it might be me and Frost, might be all three of us. But it'll be evident by the thumbnails. We have a variant for every possible combination, so you guys can ask us and poke us and get all your questions answered while we brainstorm. We'll be using those sessions also as a little bit to brainstorm live and kind of bounce ideas off each other. Because believe it or not, we have questions for each other too as we're writing these books. They ping me with them all the time, and sometimes they have a list, and they wait till they're able to get me in a corner and get me all those questions. So these streams would be great for that. So when Frost or Moss have their like questions of things that they are like, hey, how does this work, or how would that function, and whatever, they can ask me that stuff too, and that might even inspire you guys to ask questions. So I'm hoping that those Q&As will be a lot of fun. I'm getting excited, guys. I'm getting really excited. We're getting into the real nitty gritty of how stuff is working. I think the lore is turning out fantastic. I hope the system is turning out fantastic. As I am writing it, I am not one to toot my own horn, but I think it's turning out well. I hope you guys will agree. And what I've shown some of our insiders and people have liked so far. So, aside from that, guys, please like this stream. If you could, leave comments, especially questions. But any sort of comments will do. You might not know, but YouTube is a thing now where viewership alone is not enough. They don't count that as a metric for being willing to push your stuff out to the ether anymore. So they want engagement. It has to be engagement. So it's got to be likes, it's got to be comments, it's got to be super chats, which we don't have yet because we're not monetized. But those things will allow the channel to grow and expose the game more. And obviously, with something like this, especially because it's a game system that's being made for you guys, more people it reaches and the more people supporting it, the more we can bring to you guys and the faster we can bring that to you guys. So absolutely, please do give some engagement once this stream ends. We greatly appreciate that. Besides that, oh, well, didn't mean to click that. Bye, guys.